When I think about arcade-style run-and-gun shooters, there's really only one series that comes to my mind, I have to be honest. Started with this guy right here, Contra for the NES, from Konami from 1987. I first played this at a friend's house just outside of Worcester, Massachusetts. Yes, we enabled the 30 lives code because I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, we had an absolute blast playing it from beginning to end. It's a game that was less about the score, although you could certainly rack up point after point, but it was more about playing to the end and finding out what the final boss was like. This game, and that was 87, so now we're in 2019, so 32 years later, is still one of the best games in its class. It's a game that if you have an NES or if you have this by any other means, it's a game that you play every once in a great while just to test your skill to see how far through you can play. The music always stands out to me. If you've ever listened to video game cover bands, there's always one or two tracks from Contra that they have in their repertoire. It is a memorable game from start to finish, and it is a classic example of the run-and-gun shooter arcade style. But there's another series of games that are kind of similar, aren't there? It's a series that is this particular episode of Unsealed's focus. Back in 2007, for the PSP, the Wii, and the PS2, the version that I'll be showing, SNK released the Metal Slug Anthology. That's what you see right here from SNK Play More. So this is now 12 years old. No one is left behind, it says on the back of the case. The 7 best military action shooter games now on one disc. And that is a pretty big deal if you think about it. Metal Slug, Metal Slug 2, Metal Slug X, Metal Slug 3, 4, 5, and 6, all on one disc. I don't know how they did it. The wizardry is awesome, though. Being able to have 7 full arcade games on one disc is pretty crazy. Celebrate the 10th anniversary of Metal Slug. So apparently, if this was 2007, so 1997 was the first. By joining the Metal Slug team on 7 separate adventures that span across the life of the franchise in this definitive collection. Pick up and play nonstop action, arcade-perfect port of each title, and Metal Slug 6 was available for the first time on this disc. I believe that before this, Metal Slug 4 and 5 were available on one PS2 disc as well, but now we had this for the Wii, the PSP, and yes, of course, the PS2. This is sealed. Now, because this came out in 2007, by now, Sony got rid of the ID labels at the top, so this is just sealed in plastic, and that's just about it. We'll see if there's a manual in here, but let's go ahead and crack this open and see what this is about. Let me see. I always struggle with this to start. At some point, I know I keep saying I have to have scissors available, but, you know, there we go. I got it started. So we'll go ahead and, oh boy, talk amongst yourselves. You can talk about which of your Metal Slug games is the favorite. While I get this open. There we go. Let's make sure you can see as I take the plastic off. There we go. So because there's no ID label, I'll just be able to go ahead and open this up. I just want to crack it open and make sure the disc doesn't come out. It does not. This is also the time when Sony streamlined their game cases, so the memory card holder is no longer a thing. But when we open it up, you see the instruction manual with that gunmetal and red color scheme, and you also see the Metal Slug Anthology disc. Let's go ahead and take a look at the instruction manual, which is not very big. Ooh, that's surprising. I'll get to why in a second. So the back of the cover, there's nothing advertised. It's some really nice character art, and art I'm presuming from the games. And we open up the manual. It's nice to see that the manual is in color. For 2007, that was uncommon to have a manual that was in color. Now, the manual is only about a dozen pages in length. But besides that, we have an idea of how to play the game. We have the play controls mapped out. We have more about the controls as well as the history of the series. 1996 was Metal Slug Super Vehicle 001. In 98 was Metal Slug 2, 99 Metal Slug X, 2000 Metal Slug 3, 2002 Metal Slug 4, 2003 Metal Slug 5, 2006 Metal Slug 6. 2006 also gave us Metal Slug 3D and the Anthology, which came out in 06, I guess in Japan first. There are also 2 games for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, 1 for the Game Boy Advance, and 5 mobile games as well. talks about the screens, the different difficulty settings, and then, of course, you can get into the Metal Slug Gallery. There's a token system, so you can unlock some things, and it also breaks down how each game is played. This is a really neat idea, and I'd love to see more compilations like this be a thing once again. If you think about the PlayStation 2 Xbox era, we had a ton of compilations. We had the Midway Arcade Treasures compilations. We had the Capcom arcade compilations. We had a compilation from Tecmo for the original Xbox. Those compilations were really, really cool to have because they gave us all of these games on one disc that we could revisit over and over again. The Namco Museum games, how can I forget those? So being able to have those on one particular disc, to be able to play them all at once, is a really cool idea that I'd like to see come back. Where we contrast that with, say, something like the Konami Arcade Collection, which I just streamed on this very channel. I did that last night. That feels like it's lacking in features. I mean, this had unlockables in addition to the standard games, and there were 7 of them available compared to Konami's 8, which were powered by Hamster and Arcade Archives. If you see this out in the wild, you got to grab it if you have a PlayStation 2. It's also available on the PlayStation 4 via the PlayStation Store. However, rumors persist that there is some input lag, and for a shooter, that can be kind of frustrating. This I'm playing on a CRT TV, so I don't have any of that input lag stuff to really deal with. Now, whether I'm really going to get into Metal Slug after playing these games or not remains to be seen. I think that Contra is always going to have that special place in my heart for this particular style of game. However, things that I will give Metal Slug are the fact that the animation is much smoother. There's some really crazy over-the-top things in these games as well. Being able to drive an actual Metal Slug and be almost invulnerable is also very cool. And the prospect, or the aspect of the game, I should say, of rescuing soldiers and gaining bonus points seems like it pulls from Ride and Trad just a little bit, where you could gather medals, and then if you don't die, you can get extra bonus points at the end of the stage. I like that aspect of the game as well. So I picked this up from eBay. There are still some sealed copies on eBay if you're interested and you have a PlayStation 2. Don't forget there are also versions of this available for PSP and for the Wii. A lot of people still have Wii systems, and this is worth trying out for the Wii if you can grab it. So I will have to get around to playing this, put this on top of my backlog like anything else. Have you played Metal Slug before? What are your thoughts on it? Is it better, worse, or the same as Contra? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and as always, thank you very much for checking out this and every episode of Unsealed. I really do appreciate it. I'm off to celebrate birthday number 47, so I'll be offline for a couple of days, but in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you later.